Welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, where we connect the wisdom and experience of ministry leaders to the realities of ministry in the trenches. We journey with ministry leaders through all the hidden aspects that help us to become fruitful ministers. Here at the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, we discuss the stuff that no one told you about Catholic ministry and strive to help ministry leaders succeed from the beginning. Our hosts are Christy Cabanis, the Director for Missionary Discipleship for the Diocese of Cleveland, and Sarah Jarzembowski, the Director for Marriage and Family Life at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish in Crofton, Maryland. Please show your support for our efforts by clicking like and subscribe and commenting below. And now here are Sarah and Christy.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, where we engage leadership in a new way. We're trying to connect all those things that we don't necessarily talk about or that they teach us. And today we are here with Sherry Hayes-Peirce, who is a popular speaker, and her presentation style is always engaging and interactive. And she leaves us with tips and techniques and tools that can implement immediately. Her ability to knit Catholic teaching with technology continues to make her sought after speaker in person and online at Catholic conferences. She's the Catholic social media manager for American Martyrs Parish, Catholic community in Manhattan Beach, and also has a devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus and is a digital disciple of Christ. I met Sherry out at LA Congress. And let me tell you guys this story of how we met, because it's hysterical and pretty typical Sarah putting her foot in her mouth. I was in the speaker's lounge and I was chit-chatting with some friends back there, and I was getting ready to leave, and I said, hey, I'm going to this talk because my pastor wants to get rid of the parish bulletin and I'm not convinced, and I need somebody to convince me, and I think it's a crock that they want to get rid of the parish bulletin. And so I want this lady to convince me otherwise, and I want to hear all about it. And at the table next to us, this beautiful professional lady steps up and says, I think I need to reveal myself. And Sherry comes up and says, that's me.
Sarah was like, uh-oh.
And all the color drains from my face.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It was funny because I was like, I could sit here and just like let her show up and be in total shock. Oh my God, I remember that lady from the lounge. But I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of, feel her out and let her know, yeah, I feel your pain. And come on over and check it out. And it's been interesting. She didn't say the title of my session was Should the Bulletin Rest in Peace?
Yeah.
And it sparked a lot of discussion. And I have to just tell you really personally, because it's really affected me. Afterward, I was, at our coffee and donuts after Mass, and this older lady came up to me, with tears in her eyes, and she said, why are you trying to take our church from us? And I said, excuse me?
Oh.
And she said, you're trying to take the bulletin. The bulletin is a part of our church. And I was like, no, the bulletin is a communication tool. That is not our church. Our church is the people.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, no, we need to keep the bulletin. And this has been some months, and I can still see the look on her face. And it saddens me that people have attached some habitual things that we do to our identity. That is not our identity. It's part of our culture. much like, my husband, rest in peace, dude, um, used to always say, my wife, she's a Bible thumper. I'm like, Catholics are not Bible thumpers. You don't really know the Bible. That's like not our, that's not,
That's not our thing.
that's
No.
not our thing. So knowing our culture and knowing, you know, what our church is, what our Catholic practices are, is very different. And I think that's part of our, job to help people know that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I really do think that that's a good point, Sherry. And while you and I might have come to different conclusions at the end of the workshop, I really do think that that you're right, and that we've kind of come to, and so many people who are so ingrained in our parishes have put such feeling and emotion on tangible things, because they've been around for so long, and there's a grieving process, that would go along with any kind of change in the bulletin. I mean, we changed the front cover of it, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's such a big deal to that. So I'm so glad that you, even though, I didn't, lay a flower on the grave of the bulletin at the end of your talk, that you agreed to join us today, on our podcast, and to talk. And I hope that this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, because I do think that there's so much that our parishes could glean and can learn to utilize when it comes to technology. I think that there is a community, and I think that we started to see that through COVID, but I fear that we've kind of, like, the pendulum is swinging back again. We embraced online mass, and we embraced some video when we were in COVID, but all of a sudden now we're encouraged to come back to physical church, that we're not embracing that online digital community as much as we had, or as much as we could continue to do so. Like, all of a sudden it's
Mhm.
not as important.
Well, not, and I don't think that it's not important. I think it's relevant. And,
Mm.
um, I was very moved during Lent. I followed Matthew Kelly's Best Lent Ever. And he started off talking about, all the Catholics that have left. And he said, you know, those who believe don't leave. And what he was talking about was, there's great validity in the argument about online mass versus in-person mass. Bottom line is, you can't receive the Eucharist online. You can't.
Mhm.
And that is what really connects us to our Holy Catholic faith, is receiving the Eucharist. With that said, and I want to talk about, from young families who are like, oh man, the kid's having a meltdown and we haven't even gotten the car yet. I just don't have the bandwidth to deal with going to mass today and fighting with them and da 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 da. So we're gonna just watch mass at home. To the elderly person now who can't drive, who can't get someone to bring them, so they watch mass online and somebody brings them communion. And
Mhm.
then you've got all the people in between. Oh, I'm sick this weekend. I'm just going to watch it online. So that's the relevance of what online is for. It is not to replace in person going to mass. The other really important thing about online mass is, and I want to just say in general, I think people lose the importance of what social media is for. Social media is to tell your story of how you're living your life, right? So
Yeah.
that's what it is personally. It's the same thing for your parish. before somebody comes to your parish, they can see what your mass looks like. They can see what your congregation looks like. They can hear a homily from one of your priests or your pastor and say, hey, I want more of that. So that's the power of using a tool of some sort to live stream your mass. And your beautiful first communion services and confirmation that the family lives so far away, and they can't be there, but you can watch it in real time, as the family is watching in the church. The other thing that's been so powerful for is funerals. I serve a lot at my parish, and before the pandemic, I used to be in our welcome center as one of the receptionists. And this little old lady came in and she wanted to get, a mass card for her sister who had passed away. And the sister was a nun, and she was somewhere back east. I can't remember now. And I said, oh, are you going to the funeral? And she just broke down in tears. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. She said, well, no, I'm too old. And my two brothers were too old to travel. And I said, oh, and she said, yeah. And she was so involved in the community, and the bishop is going to be the presider at her mass. And I said, oh, the bishop. I said, why don't you see if they're live streaming the mass? And she said, what does that mean? And I said, well, call the person who's coordinating and ask them. And I said, do you know how to use a computer? She said, oh, yeah. I email and all that. I was like, yeah. I said, so they can send you an email with a link, and you click the link and it'll take you live to the service. And she said, well, I'll look into that. She came back, I want to say 2 weeks later, so excited. And I was behind the desk, and she was like, can I come back there? And I was like, okay. So, her hugged me, and she said, I got to watch it, and my two brothers would watch it together. She's like, I was like, no, I don't need it. Yeah, I'm good, but I'm so happy that you have it. Oh, yeah, she said sometimes you just fast forward to a part, and I was like, oh, that's wonderful. So it's kind of like we were talking about before we went live. People are poo-pooing technology, and they haven't even had an experience that they could embrace it and see how helpful it can be. Yeah.
I'm also just thinking that like putting yourself out there, the thing that struck me was whenever you said like people can see your church and check it out, I immediately had this sense of the vulnerability of that. And in a way, I think that we need to put our necks out there and try things, Sherry, but like that sense of like, yeah, people can see you now. So if you're not doing liturgy well, and if you don't have a diverse community, and you know what I mean? Like some of those things could come out, which is a little,
But that's okay. I mean, it's where I live in Manhattan Beach. It's very it doesn't have a lot of diversity. Let me just say it that way.
okay.
I'm gonna say we have 7,000 families.
Ooh.
I think there's 5 Black ones. So
Oh my.
Wow.
yeah. So that's okay. I mean, if that's what your parish
That's
is,
who you are.
that's who you are. And
Yeah.
maybe somebody who is looking for that, they're like, oh, I should go there, because I don't want to be at a parish that not that I don't want to be at a parish, that I want to experience mass in a particular way. And so because of that, I think I might want to go there. My husband and I lived in Central California for a while, and literally there was a Catholic church right across the street from me. And I was so excited. So excited. But the demographic of that parish was very different from what I was accustomed to. So I'll give you, for instance, I look so forward to Palm Sunday. I love Palm Sunday. I have my little habitual thing that I do, and that is, I have a picture of Jesus over my door, and I put the palms behind that picture and put it back up, above the door. Well, at this parish, they didn't give out palms. They bought the palms already folded into the little cross from
Oh,
some organization that, a poor country created. So it was a twofer for them. We're celebrating Palm Sunday and we're supporting this organization. And I was devastated. I came home and I was like, I don't give out palms. And my husband was like, he's like, okay, just go over there tomorrow and say, can you have some of it from the liturgical environment? Maybe they'll give you one. And they did. I was like, can I just have one from the liturgical environment? They were like, yeah, okay. But I mean, that's okay that your parish isn't necessarily diverse. It is what it is. I mean, that's your parish. So and I have to say, my husband died 3 years ago, and thousands of people came out for my husband's funeral,
wow.
and they didn't look like me. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So it's that's okay. I mean, I think that's okay. Now, if you're doing something that might be scrupulous, now that's a problem. That's a problem.
Then answer
But
your issues, right?
anything that's made, and now we
Yeah.
got proof. So, so I think, yeah, in those cases, you have to be, really sure what you're putting out there is appropriate and in accord with our Holy Catholic Church and our catechism and all that. But also, as a lector, it's like I can't just roll in there anymore. Gotta have your face right, gotta have your hair right, gotta have your outfit right. And I gotta tell you, sometimes, and I think this is a struggle for a lot of female lectors, sometimes the dresses, like the length of the dresses, I'm just like going, y'all do know this is being recorded, right? Y'all do know this is going out. That's kind of short. You better make sure you don't do a real deep bow. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond the streaming of the mass and that content, Sherry, what are other resources that we can use to interact digitally with our communities?
So one of the things I think we don't use effectively is our phones. And
Oh,
have y'all heard about My Parish app?
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think My Parish app is really a cool tool for those parishes that use it. Um, I mean, you can actually send out like push notifications. So let's say, it's raining or flooding or something, and you need to cancel mass, in an instant, all those people who have that My Parish app, you can send out a message to them that, mass is canceled, so that they, don't, and even in that post, you could send them a link that says, we're going to be live streaming today, and they could click that. Of course, the website. We gotta talk about the website for a minute.
Okay.
And and Sarah and I heard about this, and people made comments. I mean, and if you even go to our parish website, these websites are a train wreck. I mean, it's like it's gotta be easy. And so one of the things I want to suggest is I do love eCatholic. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They
Mm-hmm.
have templates already designed. And I think if you have diocesan or OSV,
Mm-hmm.
they have that as part of the package that you might have with them. So they might be, good to contact. I
Mm-hmm.
think the other mistake we're making is we're making assumptions about what our parishioners want.
Oh, say more.
you need to ask them. You need to ask them. And I'm not saying, get a survey company. I'm like, during mass, a show of hands. So it's like, if we are to communicate with you in a show of hands, we're going to give you some options and raise your hand to the one that you are most, interested in. So first I would say a text. And to me, I think that's going to be the largest, but text, email, website, social media, bulletin, or snail mail. And you will watch the hands go down. You will watch the hands go up, and you can just eyeball it. You could do the same thing with a website. Number one thing people want on a website is your mass times. Because I travel a lot, and wherever I am, I will Google Catholic churches where I am and look at the mass times. That's number one. So that should be like on the very front of your page somewhere, that somebody can just, as soon as they go to your page, it's like, oh, there are the mass times. Confessions, right? Those are like the two major things, because that's the primary function of the Catholic Church for a member to go to mass. So then you go from there. So currently, the website you have, you need to do some homework. What is the biggest hit? What landing pages are people going to currently? And those need to be folded in. The other thing is ministry. Ministry. People want to serve. They want to serve. So you should have a page for ministry. And then I think you should have like links that go to each one of the pages of the ministries that you have. So somebody hits ministry, it's like, I'm a widow. You have a widow's ministry, they click that, takes them to the widow's page. Now that ministry is going to be responsible, not you, not the webmaster, but the ministry is going to be responsible to update what their meetings are, what their message is, resources to help people, that kind of thing. You have to make it user-friendly and convenient. If I got to look everywhere for what I'm looking for, I'm not coming back to your website. It's like, that's a bad website. I'm not coming back here. So you had your hand up.
Yes, Sherry, I have a question. It's about so places that I've worked in the past, there are a lot of concerns about who has access to making changes, especially to something like the website. Are you suggesting that we share that responsibility out, or are you saying like those ministry leads are then turning into the webmaster this new content?
Exactly.
Okay.
They are every month. So here's the other thing we talked about before we went online. You got to have a plan. You can't just put stuff up there and just go, what is it? Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. No, that doesn't work with digital. No, it needs to be nurtured, and there needs to be a plan, and there needs to be like a monthly plan or quarterly plan, so that you have the ability to update it.
Okay.
So you're not going to those meetings, so you don't know what's going on. You don't know what they've talked about. So this is a great way also for your staff to know what these ministries are doing. And if these ministries aren't really doing anything,
Yeah.
should we be I don't want to say supporting, but do we need to guide them? Do we need to have them have a vision, or is this just a social club?
Right. I mean, if it's just gone to be like a social organization, then let them do that. And that doesn't necessarily need to be taking up space as a ministry in your parish. Yeah.
Right. Or on your website for that matter.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So the other thing in terms of websites is there's this great guy. His name is Andy Crestodina, Crestodina. And every year he comes up with like a top 20 things that you should be doing to your website.
Oh,
And after it's over, I'll send you the one he has for this year. And maybe you can, share that out. And he talks about, having video on your website. Like, for instance, the one thing I do like on our website is we've got this Zoom video of a drone. I'm sorry, not Zoom video, a drone video of our parish, and we've got this golden dome. And I mean, literally, you can see the beach from where we are.
oh,
And
wow.
I just saw Cabrini on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
It is said that Saint Cabrini visited the site of where our parish is and said, one day there will be a beautiful, vibrant Catholic church on this site. So we actually have her statue in our church because of that. And I am working really hard with Angel Studios to try and get that screened at our parish. So
Oh, cool.
right, so cool. And have you seen it?
Not yet.
Y'all,
I
y'all, this nun, this woman, she was like not having it. She fell to the pole. Oh, she is amazing. She's amazing. I mean, just a great saint, a great woman. And this month, Pope Francis's prayer devotion for us is for the role of women. So it was like totally apropos that I would see it. I just was like, she is amazing. My mom was like,
Mm-hmm.
she's incredible. And I said, yeah. She's like, that's one to pray to right there.
All right. All right.
So
that's awesome.
So in any case, I think one of the things they're talking about is having video, and maybe not just necessarily inside your church, but maybe you have video of a snippet of the parish during worship singing the Holy Holy or something. I don't know, but it gives people a quick, they're going to stop the scroll because it's like, oh, wow, they've got a nice choir. Oh, look how vibrant they are. So, I mean, that's one of the tips he gave. So I will get that to you. Of course, social media. Goes without saying, social media. So I'm going to give you, for instance, my pastor was in Guatemala this past week. And I got a caveat. My pastor's 86.
Oh, wow.
And he does everything with his phone. In fact, he had COVID and he was texting on the phone and he was delirious and stuff. And so we were just like, somebody needs to get the phone from him. Somebody needs to get the phone. But what he did was he had a number of volunteers who went with him. So they were all sending me pictures and sending me video. And then
Nice.
I was able to upload that on our social media so people could see. So let me tell you like transitions, okay? What he used to do is to write on a legal pad what he would want to say in a caption, right? And he writes like a doctor, right? So it was additional time because you had to decipher, and then if you couldn't decipher something, you had to wait till he was, back from going to see the sick or whatever, and then post things. Well, I was like, you text really well, Monsignor. Why don't you just text it to me? And he said, but then you got to write it. I said, no. Then I copy and paste it and drop it in. And he said, oh, you could do that? I said, yeah. And so it made life so much easier. And I had an experience. I was in Disney World during our lead up to our big fair that we have every year. And we do we sell tickets. And so somebody sent me video of Monsignor pulling the ticket out for the raffle. And I'm standing in line at Disney World, got the video. And as I'm standing in line, I'm posting, and the winner is, and I put the video up. Wow. I mean, that's the power of being able to do things digitally wherever you are.
Mhm.
Thing is, we talked about live stream, whether you use live stream or video, Vimeo. What we're doing right now, podcast. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm seeing a lot of parishes, they're calling it a podcast, but really it's just like audio of the pastor's homily, and they're putting it up, they're calling it a podcast. But that's another thing. Um, Going live on Instagram, going live on Facebook, and of course, Zoom is here to stay.
Mm.
There are so many ministries who talk about, especially like, families during confirmation and first communion, you have meetings, and it's like they would get low turnout. Now that they're doing on Zoom, they get like almost 100% turnout, because it's like all I got to do is log on from my house. It's like, let me give them dinner, and then I can go in another room and participate.
Yeah.
So those are the primary ways I think digitally you can engage with your community.
Mhm. So how does that I think some of what I hear when it comes to online gatherings and is the loss of physical connection and physical community.
And I'm
Now,
going to drop another C in there.
yeah, please.
It's
What is it?
convenient.
Convenient.
Convenience.
Okay.
So
Convenient.
I remember, pre-COVID, we were talking about cancel culture, right? It's not about that. It's about convenience culture. The reason so many digital things have happened is because it's convenient. I mean, I'm still struggling, believe it or not. Um, I have a credit card that I make the payment in the branch once a month just to go see this particular teller. I'm still there. That's a connection I've made. And she said, well, you can do this online. And I was like, Amita, then I wouldn't get to see you. And she was like, oh, I get that. But for busy people,
Mhm.
it's like that I can just schedule all my payments to go and I don't have to think about it.
Mhm.
It's convenient.
Mm.
Um, and so that's what it's about. It's about convenience. If you can provide a convenient way to do something, you've got a fan, you've got a person who is going to be on your team for that. And I think that's my response to that. The other thing is, people think, oh, it's social media has done this and so on and so forth. I don't know what happened, what's in the water, but before this, people were withdrawing from wanting to be around too many people. I don't know. I don't know when it started. I
Mm.
remember in the 90s, I used to fly a lot, and I was a single girl, and I'd be like, okay, maybe I'm gonna meet him on the plane. So, you know, I would watch the people coming on, and you'd sit on a plane and you talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Get on a plane now, do you talk to people? In
No.
fact, you just did it. They put those earbuds in, and it's like,
Yep. Yeah.
don't talk to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is, what the trigger was for people.
Yeah.
But we also have a lot of people who are on the spectrum that
Sure.
are fully functioning, but they struggle with
Mm.
being social.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really not, that's a phenomenon, that I don't know how we address that.
Yeah, my this is such a my brain is like is hitting on both sides. Like I'm not sure where to go with this because I am on both sides of this. My master's thesis was on loneliness. And it was just at the time when the US Surgeon General came out with the study on loneliness and it being an epidemic, not just a problem, but an actual epidemic. And our parishes can be a response to that in the sense of creating opportunities for connection and belonging. Right. So that's one side of this that my brain is connecting with. The other side, I'm totally hearing you with convenience, right? And we want to make sure that we're not overwhelming people with more things to go to and feeling guilty. We don't want to add to guilty for not being someplace and Catholic guilt. Like, I don't want to be part of creating that in a family. And those who are on the spectrum, I have a couple of those that I'm working with, and
Real,
I'd love,
real.
yeah. So I hear both sides of this, and my brain is firing on all cylinders here, Sherry. So I'm not sure, like, yes, I want to create convenience, but I also don't want to I don't want to I guess applaud laziness or make laziness easy.
Or can I say it in a little bit of a nicer way, which
Yeah,
is
I was gonna say define laziness.
I think actually encourage the individualistic point of view and also encourage people to not connect, because let's remember too, for
Yeah.
us, we are
Okay.
Catholics. So Sherry, you said this at the top, like making sure that we're abiding by our Catholic faith. And one of the things about our identity is we are sacramental. That means we need the physical contact in order to encounter the grace of God. So while
And
there
the
are
Eucharist.
times whenever that online opportunity is the thing that we need in that moment, that should be sporadic and used as necessary and not become our regular pattern of behavior.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. That's exactly right. I
Thank you.
feel like um I need the Eucharist. I need it.
That's
And
right.
I think that's what we're missing. And we had our meeting, our first meeting. I'm going to the Eucharistic Congress.
I'll see you
And
there.
oh good. Okay.
Hey.
Um, I need to know the friends that are gonna be there. I feel like I was very, very much touched by Matthew Kelly because I did that 33 days of Eucharistic glory for Lent. If we really could impart to our members the importance of having the Eucharist in your body
Mm,
on a regular basis, they would not want to miss unless it was absolutely necessary. And that that is what we got to do a better job of. That's what we've got to do a better job of. I mean, that's where I plant my flag. That people don't believe that Jesus is present in the Eucharist is disturbing to
mm.
me. I think that's a principal problem. And for me, I remember my husband saying once, he's like, I cannot believe you're drinking after all those people. It's flu season. I was like, dude, that is the blood of Christ. It will protect me. And he was like, okay. And, we were together for 16 years and I never got the flu. And I've always received both species, always. And I think to your point, Sarah, about not making people feel guilty, not putting so much out there, again, comes back to asking them what they want instead of like, we do these webinars, we go to these conferences, and we're like, oh, we're going to bring this back, and you might think it's a great idea.
Right.
Your parish, not so
Yeah.
much. And like I said, I will never forget that woman's eyes, the tears in her eyes about the bulletin. It completely shifted my heart to say, okay, whatever we do, we got to create an opt-in. So if you want to keep the bulletin, then you need to opt in. And then you got to come into the welcome center to come get it. Or come to the welcome center right after mass and they will be in there. We're not going to continue to like force people to take them or whatever. So you have to think about, one of the questions you asked me was about demographics. So digital tools that are available for your parish, normally you have a data management system. Somebody has provided one for you. You need to slice and dice those numbers. So let's just say you have 500 members and the demographic is 400 of them are over 50. 100 of them are under. So you're thinking, okay, my target audience is this group, and it is. But if you don't water and nurture that 100, they'll go somewhere else. And in 20 years, what's going to happen to your church? What's going to happen?
It's going to be gone.
Amen. It's going to be gone because you have to have younger people coming into your parish for the life of the parish to continue. We have seen across the country where parishes, they're too small, so they're combining them because they're not vibrant parishes.
Well, and also, Sherry, isn't it, I mean, social media, all of our digital outreach, in a lot of ways, it's our marketing for our parishes in order to make it attractive for people that are not actually in your pews, that you could be putting some kind of outreach and bringing those folks in from around. So maybe also like not just the internal demographics of your parish, but what are the demographics of the community in which your parish lives?
Right. So let's go back to that discussion we had earlier about you're like being vulnerable and putting out there what your parish looks like. So some people in your parish will fight tooth and nail for it to remain that way.
Yeah.
And putting it out there, now you're attracting a different demographic, and that can create issues too. You've got to be mindful of the other thing. I'm working with our young adult ministry. We partnered with Christus Ministries, and they're a Jesuit organization. And I'm learning all sorts of stuff working with them. I'm like the parish liaison with them. These young people, they're different. They're not locked into one parish.
Right.
They're not. Right. So you know about this.
Yeah.
They visit, I mean, and they will like drive an hour because one of their friends is like, oh, they're gonna have this wine tasting thing after mass. And it's like, why don't you come to mass with me and then we'll go to the wine tasting thing. Okay, I'll be there. It's not the same. I mean, there used to be this thing about, I remember when I first started with social media, I was like, oh, we could do an ad and, do you want to include these neighboring towns and stuff like that? And I remember the pastor going, oh, that's poaching. I said, that's what? And he said, that's poaching. We can't infringe on another parish's demographic. So no, we don't want to expand it beyond just our little city. And I was like, well, that's not smart. I mean, I drive by 2 parishes before I get to my parish.
Mm-hmm.
I would have like had to just stay in the parish that's closest to me, which is like, ain't my jam. Um, I probably wouldn't be going.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we have to shift our thinking again about traditionally what we grew up with and how it's changed. And
Mm.
Yeah.
if your parish, does good music, good homily, good hospitality, you're going to draw people. You're going to draw people. I mean, the first thing that had to come back, right, was coffee and donuts.
Yes.
100%. It
You
did.
gotta have coffee.
It
You,
did.
you don't have coffee and donuts.
You don't even have
No.
a church. I mean, come on.
Right. That's more essential in the bulletin.
Oh
100%.
man. Oh man. Gosh. Sherry, we have so much more to talk about. We want you to come back because
Yes,
there's so
please.
much more to talk about.
Okay.
Young adults, new people, guests, and visitors. I really want to delve into that because I feel like a lot of what we talked about was those who are already inside the church, those who already know things. So I want to talk about those guests and bringing new people in. So that's the next time. But before we go, we definitely want to ask that question, which is, what do you wish you knew when you started out in ministry?
That was hard. I had a moment. I didn't know it was going to be this hard. I thought, woo,
Mm-hmm.
thought if your heart was in knowing that God has given you a lot of gifts and that if you use them to glorify him, it'll be easy. Doors will swing open. And watching Cabrini, it gave me hope and inspiration because that lady, she had to kick down some doors to get
Mm-hmm.
stuff done. And you gather people who can be your advocates in times of trouble. Um, you know, God, everything that I have, everything that I do, I know it comes from the Lord. And I listened to Hallow too, and it was talking about they're doing this whole series on the early Christians, because we're in Easter season.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about Saint Clement, our fourth pope. And he said it's important not to be boastful with your wisdom. And I had a pastor when I was growing up who told me that I had this gift to lecture. And I remember I wanted to lecture for this big mass or something, and I was like, I can't believe they didn't pick me to lecture. I could lecture way better than that person, and right. I was like, all that, and
I know it.
I,
Mm-hmm.
right. And he said, well, Missy, you've gotten a little big for your britches, because he's Irish. And I said, well, what? But I'm like, that's a fact. And he's like, Sherry, no, 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 no. He said, you must be humble with your gifts.
Mm.
He said, so every time you receive communion, both species say, Jesus, meek and humble of heart, make my heart like your heart.
Mm.
When my britches get big, I always go back to it, because I think that's what happens. You have a level of success and you think, okay, I got this, I can do this. And then Jesus is like, no, you're not doing nothing. This is me through you.
Yeah.
So I think, Whew, and I know it resonates because I've talked to other people in ministry around the country when I've spoken at conferences, and it's palpable, the pain, to try
Mhm.
and make changes. It's palpable, and I think you have to listen to people. You have to communicate with one another, and we have to think of ways, like you said, that speak to everyone's heart and everyone's comfort, and show them convenience. I think the thing that resonated, and you were there, Sarah, when I shared examples of things that have changed and we survived. So like the yellow pages, I'm like,
Mhm.
who would have ever thought we could have lived without the yellow pages? Because that's where you found and you vetted businesses and churches, and it's been gone a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
And the Thomas guy, never was a fan because I couldn't read a map. Um, and then that was replaced with the Garmin. And I
Yeah.
think that was only 4 or 5 years. And then you started getting these navigation apps like Waze and Google Maps and,
Mhm.
whatever. And in just 8 years, can y'all believe it? In 8 years, they're going to stop manufacturing cars that take gas. That's going to be a huge pivot
Yeah.
for a lot of people. And I remember thinking, and I continue to think about this. There was this cartoon, The Jetsons,
Yeah.
in those hover cars. And I'm like, we are almost there. I'm- How did the person who created a cartoon in the 60s know that this was coming? That just like blows my mind. It's like all the things that we grew up with that we thought were futuristic are here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, how do we help people to embrace the change, not fight the change, not be fearful of the change? We have to provide them with examples of and models of we've been here before. It's just a different shift, you know,
Mhm.
shift. So.
Sherry, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us your story and your joy and your gifts. This has just been such a blessing, and I don't want to stop. But
But
we
we're
do.
running out of time. Yes.
I know. So thank you for getting up
Mm.
early to chat with us. We really do appreciate you, your ministry, and your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If this was helpful, we really do encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. Your shares and likes and really helps our ministry to continue and to grow. So let everybody know what we're doing here on the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks, everybody.
God bless you, ladies.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. Please click the like and subscribe. And if you find this important to the conversations you're having in your local ministry, please share and join the conversation in the comments below. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Catholic Leadership Network podcast.